317,000 dislikes. That's not a review bomb. That's not a coordinated hit. That's 2 weeks of fans walking up to the YouTube trailer for HBO's Harry Potter reboot and pressing the thumbs down button one at a time until the dislikes overtook the likes. The trailer has officially been ratioed. HBO's response? Not to course correct, not to listen. No, their response is to float an idea of a female non-binary Voldemort. So today we're going to stack the receipts. We're going to look at the numbers, the leaks, the open letters, and the one internal contradiction that nobody in this space has fully unpacked just yet. Because this isn't a casting controversy anymore. This is a franchise hostage situation. Welcome back to The Critical Nerd. If you want receipts-heavy pop culture breakdowns, do me a favor, smash that like button, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Let's walk through what's happening, what's confirmed, what's rumor, and why this story has a long runway until Harry Potter's premiere at Christmas time of 2026. Let's start with the hard data because the hard data is doing the talking for us. As of today, April 14th, 2026, the official Harry Potter teaser trailer is sitting at approximately 317,000 dislikes versus 270,000 likes. The dislikes have officially overtaken the likes, and that's what we call a ratio, people. Now, YouTube hid the dislike counter back in 2021. They did that specifically to prevent this kind of public verdict, but extensions like return YouTube dislike brought the numbers back, and what those numbers show is unmistakable. This didn't happen overnight. Wasn't a flash mob. The dislikes climbed steadily over 2 full weeks. That's sustained rejection. That's not rage. That's a verdict. And the comment section tells the rest of the story. The top comment, pulling in 37,000 likes, reads, "This is so book accurate." Posted the moment Paapa Essiedu appears on screen as Snape. Pure sarcasm. Gold. Another one with 27,000 likes says, "Not casting Adam Driver as Snape should be a crime." I happen to be in that same camp. They should have casted Adam Driver as Snape. Just saying. And it's not just the main trailer. HBO Max Nordic, HBO Max Australia, HBO Max Germany, HBO Max Asia, all of the regional uploads are ratioed too. Worldwide rejection. Let that sink in. Now, I want to be crystal clear on something because I said it in my last video. I'm going to say it again here. Threatening harm to an actor because of his casting is unacceptable. Period. End of story. Paapa Essiedu told the Sunday Times, and it's also covered here in Variety, that he's received messages saying, "Quit or I'll blank you." You guys can fill in the blank. To me, that's disgusting. You can disagree with the casting decision and still be a decent human being. And if you're sending threats, you're not a fan, you're a criminal in my book. But HBO is making a very strategic error by conflating the threats with the legitimate criticism. Because the ratio didn't come from a handful of extremists. It came from hundreds of thousands of fans who simply pressed a button. And that button is the only vote they have. So here's where it gets worse because the Black Snape controversy wasn't the ceiling, it was the floor. Over the past week, it's been leaked. Many have covered it. That Voldemort is possibly being reimagined for the HBO series. More specifically, a gender-swapped or non-binary version of the character. Now, where's all this come from? Well, it comes from an IGN article where Ralph Fiennes, the original Voldemort, appeared on the Claudia Winkleman show on the BBC. I'm actually picking this up from Variety, just so you know. He was asked whether he'd return to the role. He said he'd been approached years ago, said he'd love to, but hasn't heard anything since. Then the interviewer specifically asked him about Tilda Swinton, who has been floated in certain circles as a replacement. And Fiennes, being polite, said she'd be, quote-unquote, fantastic. That's it. That's the quote. He didn't volunteer her name. He didn't endorse a gender swap. He was asked a leading question and gave a diplomatic answer, but IGN and others ran with it like it was a casting announcement. And this is the playbook. The media takes a polite answer, strips the context, repackages it as an endorsement, and then acts surprised when fans react. Fiennes was asked about Swinton. He didn't bring it up. The framing of this is the story. But here's the real question nobody's asking. Why is this even being floated at all? The show doesn't premiere until Christmas. They haven't even cast Voldemort yet, and according to HBO CEO Casey Bloys, who's putting Tilda Swinton's name in the mix, and why now, when the trailer is already drowning? Well, I'll tell you why. Because controversy is oxygen. One person famously said, controversy creates cash. If the fandom is fighting, the show is trending, and that is the new marketing meta. They learned it from Star Wars, they learned it from Rings of Power, and now they're running it on Harry Potter. And let's address the elephant in the room. Tom Marvolo Riddle, I am Lord Voldemort, is an anagram of his full name. It's a pivotal plot point in Chamber of Secrets. You cannot gender swap a character whose identity is literally encoded in his name, unless you're willing to rewrite the lore itself, which at this point, maybe they are. Now here's the angle I haven't seen anyone fully unpack yet. Maybe they have and I missed it. And this is the one that matters because it exposes the internal contradiction at the heart of this entire production. In 2025, April last year, the UK Supreme Court ruled unanimously that under the Equality Act, woman is defined by biological sex. J.K. Rowling, the creator of Harry Potter, the executive producer of the series, the woman whose books are funding this entire operation, celebrated that ruling publicly. She donated £70,000 to the organization that brought the case. She posted a photo of herself with a cigar writing, "I love it when a plan comes together." Days later, Paapa Essiedu, the lead actor who's already at the center of a firestorm, signed an open letter with over 400 entertainment professionals condemning that same ruling. The letter called the decision a threat to the safety of trans, non-binary, and intersex people. It called on industry bodies to take action. Think about what's happening here. The star of the show is publicly opposing the creator of the IP he's starring in. Not privately, not through back channels, on the record, in print. While the show he's been cast in for 10 years is generating billions of dollars for the very woman whose position he's condemning. Now, to her credit, Rowling handled it with more class than most people would. She said, and I quote, "I don't have the power to sack an actor from the series, and I wouldn't exercise it if I did. I don't believe in taking away people's jobs or livelihoods because they hold legally protected beliefs that differ from mine." That's a receipt. That's the creator of the franchise saying, "I disagree with you, but I'm not going to destroy your career over it." Compare that to the open letter, which is essentially calling for institutional action against people who hold the same view as the UK Supreme Court. And this is the contradiction that HBO can't resolve. They're banking on Rowling's IP. They're banking on her fan base. But the people they've hired to bring that IP to life are publicly at war with the creator. That's not creative tension. That's a production that's fighting itself from the inside. If all this is starting to feel just a little familiar to you guys out there, it should. Because we've seen this exact playbook before. Rings of Power, anyone? $1 billion IP, Lord of the Rings. Built-in fan base. Announced to massive hype. Then we got race swap casting that contradicted the source material, a trailer that got ratioed into oblivion, preemptive PR campaigns branding critics as toxic fans, showrunners who talked about updating the story for a modern audience, behind-the-scenes specials rushed out to control the narrative. Does that all sound familiar to you guys? Because HBO's Harry Potter is running the same playbook, point by point. Inauthentic casting that contradicts the text. Check. Ratioed trailer, not just on the main channel, but worldwide. Check. A behind-the-scenes special dropped 8 months before premiere as damage control. Check. The word reimagine used to describe their approach to the source material. Check. And remember what happened with Rings of Power? Season 1 pulled big numbers because everyone tuned in to give it a shot. Then the audience fell off a cliff. The viewership cratered, and now it's limping toward a finish line that nobody's waiting at. Harry Potter Season 1 will be massive. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Christmas 2026. Everyone is going to watch it out of curiosity, out of nostalgia, out of wanting to see if it's as bad as they think. The question isn't season 1. The question is season 2 and season 3, and whether there's anyone left watching by the time we get to Goblet of Fire. Because Warner Brothers Discovery is betting the farm on this. They're in massive debt. Harry Potter is the only IP they have left that consistently generates money, be it books, films, theme parks, merchandise, video games, and they're gambling it all on a reimagining that nobody asked for. So here's where we are. The trailer's ratio. The Voldemort leak is accelerating the discourse. The lead actor is publicly opposing the creator, and the studio is running damage control 8 months before a single episode airs. This isn't a show that's building excitement. This is a show that's burning trust, and trust, once it's gone, doesn't come back with a behind-the-scenes featurette. HBO isn't adapting Harry Potter. They're holding it hostage, and the ransom is your subscription. Now, I want to hear from you guys out there. Does the Voldemort leak surprise you at this point? Does the Essiedu Rowling dynamic matter to you, or is it just Hollywood being Hollywood? And be honest, are you still planning to watch season 1? Drop in the comments. Let's have a real conversation. This has been The Critical Nerd. Keep your expectations low and your receipts high, and I'll see you later.